going on, dudes and dudettes? So just got fresh out of the shower, so I wanted to do this video for the LA Lakers going into the 2021 free agency, where it's actually going to be happening in 2020 basically, because it starts around October 16th, I believe. It's pretty crazy just because it seems like the season might end by then unless every game goes to game 7, but we'll see how that goes. Very interesting right now. Lakers are up 3-1, so hopefully they advance and most likely have to play the Clippers, which is what everybody has wanted so far, so we're able to see that soon. But as of right now, I wanted to get in ahead of everybody else real quick on who the Lakers should get, who I like, who I think will be better fits if LeBron stays, and AD as well. Basically, he's going to be the top person, but we'll get into that right now. So Anthony Davis is obviously the Lakers' highest priority. He is on a player option, which he can get out of and try to get a bigger, longer contract. I just don't know why he would do that. He might as well just stay on that player option deal and be able to save the Lakers some money to be able to go after another one of these guys with a little bit more money instead of the mid-level exception, which is like around 4 years, $40-some odd million, I believe. You could get a better player. He might be able to even do both contracts as well, which is cool. But yeah, definitely bringing back Anthony Davis should be a top priority for the Lakers, and not let this be a one-year dumb rental like how Dwight Howard was back in the day. And then a second player who I've been really pushing for the Lakers to get and team up with both LeBron and AD in LA is an LA native, and DeMar DeRozan, ex-USC shooting guard. He was always with Toronto for so long, then got traded for Kawhi Leonard to the San Antonio Spurs. He's been in San Antonio for a couple years, but he's been still productive, still doing his thing down there, but I still think he wants to leave, and he is on a player option as well. So if he really wants to be with a contender, because I don't think the Spurs will be able to contend for championships anytime soon, the amount of older players they have, like always. So he wants to get out of that situation, come back home to the real LA team, the Lakers, instead of going and jumping ship with the Clippers, depending whatever they do. But pairing him up with guys like AD, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands, and with LeBron there, and then he's good going. He's always in the mid-range as well, so Lakers need someone who could always get a shot like that, average 18 to 22 points a game. Be a nice little big three there for the Lakers for the future. I think that's a great option for him. And then going into some other guys that I think would be great fits that are also starters, or maybe guys first coming off the bench, but these guys are definitely starters in my opinion. So Danilo Gallinari is a guy who's always been rumored to be going to the Heat apparently, but he was with the Clippers kind of recently. Then he was just right now with OKC, did very well for them, and he's going to be a free agent. So if the Heat don't try to nab him and he takes all that money, all that tax-free money down to South Beach, him being a starter with the Lakers, once again pairing him up with guys like LeBron and AD, be very beneficial for the Lakers. Have another scorer, a guy who can use his size. Not the greatest defensive player, but still be able to use his size. He's like 6'9", almost 6'10". He's another great option for the Lakers. Another one that always pops up, usually, especially the past 5 years, is Goran Dragic, ex-Suns player and now Miami Heat player. He's going to be officially a free agent. I know he signed a big contract down there in Miami a few years back, but he's just been awesome coming off the bench for the Miami Heat, and then he became even better once they got into the bubble and they started him as well over the rookie. So I think he still has a lot left in the tank, still in his early 30s, and hopefully you're not going to overpay for him, Lakers, but definitely have another point guard out there to run the show with LeBron to help out as well with the Lakers. Another guy who's very interesting is Jeremy Grant. He's a forward right now for the Nuggets. He does have a player option. I think he is going to back out of his option just because he's going to be able to get a 4 or 5 year deal worth way more money per year than what he's going to be getting. So I think he's definitely a great option just because of his defensibility. He's able to shoot threes as well and do a lot of cutting and slashing off the dribble. So having a guy like that with LeBron, who's always willing to pass, and AD, who needs some help on the defensive side as well, will be great. You might have to overpay for him a little bit, but he is a young player, so his mid-20s. Definitely worth an investment, especially if he becomes a better overall offensive player. That's just in my opinion. And to round out players who I believe can be starters slash six-men, first guy off the bench for the Lakers, right now it's Davis Bertans. He's a forward, around 6'9" to 6'11", from the Wizards. He opted out to play in this bubble because he wanted to save himself for free agency, make sure he was healthy. And he's pretty much a stretch forward. He can shoot the three very well. He can rebound for the most part because of his height. Probably some limits on defense, but overall, you're going to pay a little bit more extra for a guy. This is a good guy to get. Help you out offensively. Just might be a hindrance defensively for the Lakers. And Serge Ibaka is another guy who's always been a big name for a while, but has kind of been taking a bench role while he's been with the Toronto Raptors after the trade from OKC. I just think he could still contribute, whether it's shooting the ball still very well from three, scoring for you down low in the paint, and then getting you rebounds, whether offense or defense. So he's definitely a good guy who will probably come pretty cheap on a good 1 to 2 year deal in this window right now for the Lakers. So I think he's a great guy to have coming off the bench as well, and could even start if Anthony Davis does get injured. And another guy who is also going to be highly coveted because he is a three-point marksman is Joe Harris from the Nets. He looks like he's one of the top guys, especially three-point shooting wise, and every team's going to be after him, but he can definitely help you with that. He can still go off the dribble and score inside for you as well with shot fakes. Not a very good player defensively or rebounding, but definitely a guy you can trust to knock down quite a few threes for you in a game and be able to stretch your lead on offense as well. And a couple other guys who most likely going to be first guys coming off the bench, but these are definitely two highly talented guys. Evan Fournier is a guy who's always been around the league. He's been stuck with Orlando Magic for the past few years now. He is on a player option, but I believe if he finally really decides he wants to be able to be on a winning team and contend for a championship, this is definitely the year for him to get rid of that player option, and he could join the Lakers on a very cheap deal, be one of the top bench players for the Lakers if he does decide to go there. He can still shoot the ball. He's very good offensively. Kind of scrappy defensively. He might be able to help you, but he's not the greatest defensive player overall, but definitely a guy you can trust on offense to score you some points. Then the final guy who I think could be a very big piece free agency for the Lakers is Aaron Baines. He was recently a center for the Phoenix Suns, and during a stretch when DeAndre Ayton, their star, the Suns star, was out, Aaron Baines looked like an amazing player, scoring and rebounding like crazy, even though he isn't like that type of player. But when he gets his opportunity, he's able to do good stuff with it. I think him being a better defender at times than JaVale McGee. If JaVale McGee doesn't want to come back on his player option, then you go with a guy like that who can still help you out defensively, rebounding wise, and play your center position, the position that Anthony Davis does not like to play that often. But yes, he could be very useful, and that's definitely a guy I'm choosing on the team. I think I'm going to be able to go through other players right now that are going to be good bench players, whether they're six men, great guys to have role players, and even end of the bench type of players Lakers could look at free agency wise. So stay tuned in this video. Hopefully I'll be able to get it all in one, and hopefully it's not too long for you. Now to get into some guys who could be six men / rotation players in my opinion for the Lakers in free agency. I want to start off with Kelly Olynyk, who's on a player option. For some reason, he went to Miami, played had a role last year, but for some reason this year he hasn't really had much of a role, and it's kind of helped them out. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals with him barely coming off the bench, and Bam Adebayo being what he is. But he could look at that player option and say, you know what, I want to go to, even though this is a contender, I'm not really getting, any playing time, which is what a lot of guys would prefer. So hopefully he thinks that way and wants to come to a team like the Lakers. And he's a guy who could play center, who could help out Anthony Davis, but then he could also shoot the three as well from that position, over 6'10", so definitely a guy to look at. Another Miami Heat player is Jay Crowder, a guy who I really liked a lot. Always tried to get to the Lakers, but for some reason he always was traded somewhere else every year it seems. But yes, he once again was traded to Miami and has flourished for them, of course, coming off the bench. He's just a guy who, if you need defensively, offensively at times, he could help you there as well. He's a great guy to have. I hear he's a good locker room guy as well, so that's definitely what the Lakers would need than some of these other guys like Waiters or J.R. Smith, guys that they signed. And then also, I of course had to get an ex-Duke player in there, Mason Plumlee. He's always been around. He was drafted by the Nets, then went to Portland. Denver Nuggets is who he's with right now, to name a few. But yes, a guy who can come off your bench, play the power forward, center position. He's not a great shooter. You don't expect him to do that. You just expect him to have some his relentlessness on defense to be able to help you out, and his ability to rebound the ball well as well, and then being able to catch dunks for alley-oops, and then be able to help you out on the offensive board as well. He's a guy who I really like for Lakers coming off the bench to help out. And then also we have Carmelo Anthony. Yes, I guess he's always been trying to get to play with LeBron, but for some reason in the past couple years it just hasn't happened. And he showed he could play very well with the amount of time he was given with Portland. Yes, it was a bit too much time, I think, while in the bubble, too much minutes, but if you have him on a 15, maybe 20-minute basis, him able to use what he can, ISO plays, stuff like that, or be able to shoot the three ball in transition, I think he'd be a very good player for the Lakers coming off the bench. Very rotational role type of player, but he's definitely not going to be your sixth man, in my opinion, that year. And to finish off some players that I believe can be six-men / rotation players, Marco Bellinelli, another guy who's been stuck in San Antonio and kind of bounced around all over the league, but whenever he's been on the team, he's been one of their better three-point shooters. So I think surrounding guys like LeBron and AD with guys who are consistently good at shooting the three ball, it's always a good option, whether he can't contribute in other places, but when it comes to offensive power, that's what you need at times. Then DJ Augustin is another guy who's almost in his mid-30s and plays point guard position, but he's always still very productive, even for a crappy Orlando Magic team. Yeah, he's been coming off the bench because they want to play Markelle Fultz this year, but he was still very productive, even for his age, and he got to do a lot of good stuff down there. So I've been always trying to get him to come to Lakers for a long time, and hopefully he could be a good backup point guard coming off the bench for the Lakers next year. Then Maurice Harkless, or Mo Harkless as a lot of people call him, he's been a guy that Lakers have been trying to get for a bit, just because they like his size, over 6'9", and his length. He can play defense and still help you out offensively as well. But he went to the Clippers, I think, a couple years ago, then got traded to the Knicks, and was just on the Knicks for a bit, but I think now he's officially a free agent. So to be able to add a guy like that coming off your bench, help you out, like I mentioned, defensively and from the three-point line, could be very beneficial for this type of Laker team. And then also, to finish out these players, Tyler Johnson at point guard, who was with Phoenix for a while, Miami Heat for a while, and then he finally got to the Nets, who've been trying to sign him for a long time, but it was kind of like a one-off deal to see what he could do while he was in the bubble. And he showed he could still be somewhat consistent, be able to help you out as an athletic point guard / shooting guard, but still shoot from three pretty well, be able to make some plays. That's why I figure he's just a guy who's going to be in the rotation, but a guy who's pretty talented, and we'll see if he would rather stay with the Nets, because they're going to have a pretty good team next year once all those guys are healthy. But if he wants to come to LA, be able to play with these better veterans, in my opinion, then it could be pretty beneficial for him in a couple years. Okay, and for the now Lakers players that are on expiring deals or player options, these are the type of players that I would rather not return, or maybe would like to return. Talking about their free agents, we have Jared Dudley and Dion Waiters. Whatever they bring to the locker room, I don't care. I'd rather them just not be there, be able to have some more consistent shooting and better athletic players coming off the bench at any point, whether it's rotation or even way at the end of the bench type of guys. Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley, both guys that are on player options. I prefer them to both return because I think Rondo I would rather have him on the Lakers than have him go to somewhere else and benefit that team. And Avery Bradley just showed how good of an asset he was, even signing a pretty slim 2-year deal that he did, but I think they gotta hope that he doesn't want to get out of that player option and try to get some more money, but maybe because he didn't come to the bubble, he would kind of just play on this 1-year deal, see what he could get the next following off season. And then guys like JaVale McGee I mentioned most recently, he does have a player option. He's a guy I could live with or without. I mean, he's just going to be coming off the bench most likely compared to the other guys that I would prefer to have on the Lakers anyways. He doesn't really help you shooting wise. He's just there for some type of defense ability and rebounding as well. So I would hope he doesn't take his player option and goes somewhere else, but that's just me. And then guys like Dwight Howard or J.R. Smith, I forget if I'm pretty sure it's J.R. Smith on a 1-year deal, so I hope he's gone as well. And then Dwight Howard, I don't know, I forgot what deal he's signed. It's most likely a 1-year deal, but he could be an asset, but at times it's just too much fouling going on. He don't really need him in my opinion. And then the final guy I want to get to for Lakers free agency is KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a guy who I wanted the Lakers to get. I thought he was a great get at the time a few years back, but he's just never been, at least in my opinion, the player that he once was in Detroit where he got drafted, and that's the reason why the Lakers traded for him at the time. And for some reason he's been able to get away with this, signing 1-year deals or player option deals, and then also having a no trade clause in his contract, which has always irked me. I don't know why he's a type of player that doesn't really deserve to have that no trade clause in his contract, yet he somehow always is able to get it. But I think that's just because he's working with a lot of LeBron's friends or his agents, that's why. But I don't know, I'm kind of over and done with him. He kind of helps you out defensively more, and shooting wise now it's like it comes in very sporadic spurts, and I can go on without it and choose some other type of players. But right now, to finish this video, I'm going to get to these guys who are most likely going to be pretty much bench players, but guys to be able to have on your roster to stack up and be able to keep for the future, to see what type of talent they have, and guys that I think the Lakers should take a couple swings on. But we'll finish off this video real quick. So yes, finish off this Lakers team. Harry Giles, an ex-Duke player, should be a lot better, but he's playing with the Kings, and whenever they give him more playing time, showing he could still play in this league, which is why I want him on the Lakers instead of the Kings. So hopefully he can be a good enough bench player for them coming up next season. And then Bryn Forbes, he's been known to be a three-point shooter, especially coming out of college, and he's been okay in the NBA, but he just hasn't been great, hasn't got much playing time, but he's still on the Spurs, so he must have some type of ability. But he does try to play defense, but I still think Lakers need three-point shooting, and him being open and just focusing on that could be very beneficial for not only him, but the Lakers as well. And Jahlil Okafor, another ex-Duke player, plays the center position. I don't know why he doesn't get more playing time, because he seems like every time he does, whether when Davis went down or even Embiid when he was a rookie, and even Zion Williamson just recently in the bubble, every time those guys have gone down who are starters at his position, he's done very well for himself. So I don't know why a team won't take a chance on him, but it could stash him on the Lakers in case there's injuries, or just be able to get some playing time for the Lakers at that position for Anthony Davis. And I think he's a good guy to have on the bench for you. And then Furkan Korkmaz, he's a guy who's been with the 76ers since he was drafted, but he's been slowly going back to the bench and getting less playing time. He seems like a great offensive player, because in Summer League, one time he had like over 60 points or over 50 points, something crazy like that. And yeah, it's Summer League, you're playing against lesser competition, but that's got to translate into something pretty solid and productive in the NBA, but I just haven't seen it lately. But maybe him having a change of scenery, being on a better team, and just having to focus more on his offensive ability instead of having to play make and play too much defense, I think could help him out a lot going into the NBA. And then DeMarre Carroll is a guy who, I don't know what happened to him. He was good for Atlanta Hawks and he's been good for like Toronto Raptors, but I think he got traded to the Houston Rockets, and for some reason they don't even play him, which is kind of crazy because he was very productive even with the Nets too, like playing defense and shooting threes as well. But yeah, I don't know if there's still something left in the tank for him or not. We'll see what he can do. Hopefully he still can play, because if he can, he's a great asset coming off the bench for the Lakers. A couple of younger guys people might not really know about. I kind of would like to have them stashed on the Lakers roster instead of certain guys like Talen Horton-Tucker or Kostas Antetokounmpo that they have the Lakers have on the end of their bench. But a guy like Matt Mooney coming out of Texas Tech, he's a point guard / shooting guard, but he's a great shooter, great competitor, can somewhat play defense. He's just been on crappy teams. I think he was on Memphis and then got traded to Cleveland, and now he's going to be a restricted free agent. So if Cleveland really wants him that bad, they might re-sign him, but I don't think they will, and I think you could get him pretty cheap as well. So, and it's kind of the same thing going for this other guy who is a Memphis Grizzly right now. He was drafted by them, Yuta Watanabe, and another guy who shows a lot of flashes during summer league when getting more playing time, but for some reason during the regular season doesn't get the opportunity to play. Just way down on the bench and only goes in when blowouts. So I think a guy to stash like that, I mean, he's very tall, like 6'8", still has athletic ability and can score, very good on offense. You worry about his defense, but I don't know, I see something special in him, and hopefully he still has that fire, unless the Grizzlies already took it out of him, which would suck, but we'll see how that goes. So yes, these are a lot of the players I would like in the Lakers free agency coming up pretty soon. What was it, next month I said? So yeah, hopefully this wasn't as long as a video as it felt like it was making this, but hopefully you guys found that enjoyable, and hopefully I've made some good choices here that some people like, especially the Laker Nation, and hopefully we get some of these guys, and definitely a lot of the guys back that we need, like Anthony Davis, Avery Bradley, Rondo, like that from our team right now. So thanks for watching. Like I always say, like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day.